So every meeting, we're having the chance to get to know a little bit more about someone from our cohort, and it is our community, and at the same time, bringing a different experience that comes, and then we can get to know a little bit more about this person and also the culture of it, the country where the person lives. And today we're gonna have Oscars to prepare our check-in and our welcome time to start our meeting this morning. Right, Oscar? Here with you.
Vale, buenas tardes, noches,
Hello.
días para todos.
Hello, everyone. I hope
Muy bien, y bueno,
that you're
nuevamente
doing fine. And again, I'm glad to be with you here
para retomar el trabajo que has hecho
to restart our work that we started
y bueno,
last week with Ceci. And let's hope that we can match her in her intention last week.
y
I want to thank you for your presence. And I would like to indicate that we are going to start with a little exercise of breathing to center our attention in our mind and body here and now. Always when you go toward the left side, inhale. And then exhale as you go towards the right side. And then again, you start moving from one side, inhaling and towards the other side. And exhale, slowly moving towards the opposite side. We are going to repeat that twice. So we come back to the center. And I would like to ask you to make yourself comfortable, to get loose with your body. Stretch your arms, move your back, stretch as much as you can.
sin estar mirando tanto,
and now you are going
yendo en los
to
límites.
follow the voice. Each one following the plasticity of your body. Just stand
Estirar
up.
nuevamente los brazos.
And standing up, stretch again your arms. Slowly put tiptoe, go into your the tip of your toes, go down. And let's turn towards the left, the whole body again. And towards the right now, after passing from left to right. And now we are going to move our right leg towards the right and come back to the center. We have three positions: center, moving to one of the sides, center, and towards the opposite side. So we start with the left leg. We moved towards the side.
Un poco de música para ambientar.
Anna, could you please play the music that I passed to you? We moved with our left leg towards the center again. And then again towards the right. And then towards the left. And let's give some flavor to it. Let's move ourselves. Follow the music as you can. Moving yourself towards the side. Let your body go with the music. Let's move. Yeah, exactly that way. Everybody moving. Each one is going to do something with this music. Turn, perhaps, move towards one side, towards the other. Feel free to make something, a movement. And let's come back to the center again. Slow down the music. Thank you.
Nuestra cordura.
We sit down again. We gain our rationality again. Because sometimes it's good to get out of our rational way of thinking. There is a question now. Just trying to rescue something that Marcelo said yesterday. What is that your body is telling you now? So who wants to start? Please start talking and give the floor to somebody else, please. Feel free to start, anyone.
Bueno, eu vou começar. Meu corpo está como que sorrindo.
My body is smiling. It's very light.
Está dizendo, quero mais.
It's saying, I want more.
Então, eu passo para
So now I pass the floor to Matthews. Hi, everyone. How are you? The same thing, Marcelo, the same thing. It was good to dance. You know, my body wants more salsa, right? That was salsa, right? Yeah, right, Oscar? Right, so my body's asking for more. And so now I call Sole. Soledad?
Ay, yo estaba hablando y con el micrófono apagado. Voy a hablar en español porque el cuerpo me habla en
I'm going to
español.
talk in Spanish because my body's talking to me in Spanish.
Es la única parte de mí
The-
que no habla en inglés.
It's the only part of my body who doesn't speak English.
La palabra es alegría.
What I felt was happiness,
Y
because
se lo
for
voy
me,
a-
dancing is happiness. And I give the floor to Ceci.
Me encanta, yo creo que comparto con
I
ustedes.
love it. I share with you the feeling.
Un mal movimiento que hice.
I had my pain was acting, and as I was dancing, I completely forgot, and I stopped dancing,
Bailando mientras
and I
la
still
reunión sigue.
feel pain.
Ahí me-
So for me, it was like I forgot my pain dancing. Thank you. And I give the floor to Ricardo. Thank you, Ceci. Thank you, Oscar. Great way to start. Hello, everybody. My body talks about remembering that music that link all of us in Latin America, that allows me to remember my feelings and my memories that I have very pleasant with linked to dancing. And I give the word to whom, Ricardo? Sorry.
Tenemos aquí el tiempo de
Beth, I think it's you.
Please, Beth, you are invited to do your sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Oscar, and everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. I felt that I realized that I had a lot of energy inside of me and that I must have been tense before, but getting up, I felt energy flow, and inside I was smiling, and I felt more connected to all of you. And Ceci, I just loved watching you dance. And I'll pass the floor to Marlene.
Right, so I was happy. I had never danced salsa before. I think it was sort of my first time dancing this rhythm. So yeah, it was a joy. So now I pass the floor to Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Marilene. My feet said, gosh, it's about time you remembered me. And my hand said, good to meet you again. Let's hang out. Who hasn't spoken? Michelle, maybe.
Thank you, Robert. I was just feeling like the same, like Sole was saying. We are speaking in English, right? And most of the time, it's incredible because I did felt like speaking in Spanish because maybe the rhythm is salsa. Entonces me encantó muchísimo hacer el baile. Es cuando yo creo que Oscar has hablando con nosotros ayer. No creía.
And when Oscar was talking to us yesterday, was just great. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
And also in Portuguese, I believe the body, you know, the movement brings about, it reminds me of something from my childhood because I danced a lot when I was a child. I was part of groups and bringing this connection with dances from carnival and children's parties and regional parties and parties that we have, typical parties that we have in June. When it's cold, everybody dances together, and it's very much Brazilian culture. So I was reminded of all of that in these memories that we have in our genes. And even although I look like Japanese, and everybody thought that was weird because I danced so much, you know, I have a Brazilian soul and a Latin American soul. And when I move, it expands. So I feel all of this joy honoring the cells of my body by means of this movement. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Que yo creo que todos han hecho sí su check-in.
I think that everyone has all talked.
If you guys had, if you had a chance to move your bodies by the time you were translating us at the same time, by the time Oscar was doing it, if you would like to share. So Carol is sharing in the chat, love it, love dancing, love salsa, right? Maritza as well, if you would like to feel how was your body in this first checking moment. Yes, and Carolina has a very good connection with family because her dad used to play also salsa, and Maritza also love it. So I think you touched something special, Oscar, in this check-in today. There's something that is giving us a very good sign to come along with what actually is touching our hearts and what actually touches our collective field. And especially we haven't really danced, but maybe that's what we are doing collectively in this collective field that is not seen. So thank you so much. So now, Mateus, would you like to come on board to explain to us? Yes, go ahead.
Obrigado, Michele. Obrigado, pessoal.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you, everyone. Well, to continue with this climate, with this celebration, we will have the opportunity of continuing with our presentations of the projects, to continue something that started last week. And this week we will have a presentation of 3 more projects, or 2, depending on the participants and also the time. But I am going to explain how we thought about these presentations very briefly so that we can also focus on the projects, okay? So I would like to begin by sharing my screen with you, just to show you a model that I shared with you earlier and to explain it a bit, but especially here in more general orientation. As I said, we will have the opportunity of continuing with the presentation of the projects, and at this time, each project will have 10 minutes approximately for the presentation. And after the presentation, we will have 10 more minutes for discussion. So it's different from last week because it was 5 minutes each. Now we expanded this time because we saw that 5 minutes was not enough. So now we will have 10 minutes for each step. But we would like to say that the discussion is very important. We will continue to fill out the baskets, but with a few more details. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to share another screen, just a moment, to explain how we will fill the baskets. Last week, we were able to fill this out, right? the basket of the organization by SESI, Colectivo Sintrópico, and we saw that there were questions and comments, and they were a bit loose there, and we were not able to identify the ones who made the comment sometimes. So we thought that it would be important for you to say your name, right? Or your organization when you make the comment. And then you can ask questions, you can make comments, you can make an offer, you can compliment the person in the project. So whatever you wish. So I'm going to share the link with you on the chat. But I'm going to do that during the first presentation, okay? Today, we will have the presentation by La Jungla, Caigo Meeting, and El Ojo del Agua. I don't know who would like to begin presenting. If you have any questions or comments about my explanation, feel free to do so. Who would like to begin then? And if you have questions, you can ask. I don't know if I was clear. If everybody could give a thumbs up. Yeah, if it's clear. All right. Would anybody like to begin? Oscar, Lorenza, Mari. Oscar? Yeah. All right. All right, Oscar, then if you please. Is that okay, Lorenza?
Sí.
Thank you, Oscar. Have a great presentation.
Okay, perfect. I please ask you to help me with time because I get too emotional and I start to talk too much. So please cut myself. Please, Matthews, help me controlling time. It doesn't matter if you have to cut my speech because I think we will have more spaces to talk, so we don't have to say everything. Let me share my screen.
¿Se puede ver ahí?
No, una cosa importante, Oscar, es que debes tener abierto, por ejemplo, si lo hiciste en PowerPoint, debes tener el archivo abierto en PowerPoint. Eso fue
Sí,
lo que me
ya.
pasó la vez.
Está abierto, está abierto.
¿Ya lo abriste?
Sí, a ver.
Ok.
Se puede compartir con la, no sé si
Ya,
has hecho.
listo, ya la
¿Sí?
veo. No, era una cuestión de
Ok.
configuración.
Ah, está.
¿Sí? ¿Lo estamos viendo?
Sí.
Vale, ya. No, era una cuestión acá de la configuración del... Vale, entonces yo había preparado
So I
un
prepared
video, también lo tengo.
a video,
Pero bueno, el problema es que está solo en español. Se los dejaré
but
en el chat y en el grupo también por si alguien tiene pues un interés. Bueno, pero se nos lleva casi todo el tiempo, Maritza, y no abarca
perfecto.
una cantidad de cosas que... Vale. Vale, entonces nuestra
Well,
organización se llama
our
Fundación Cultural Ojo de Agua.
organization is called
Que estamos desarrollando
Ojo de Agua,
se llama Escuela
and the
Campesina.
project that we are developing this year is the Peasant School of Arts. The members of the team that are Emilce González, which is actually like the leader. She's a lawyer,
Y bueno, también es licenciada en teatro.
and she's also a professional of theater and a writer. Viviana is a plastic artist. She's an actress. Nidia Vega, who agronomic engineer, but she's also a singer, composer, and is one of the person who works on Vestrally. And Juan Carlos, who is a geologist, but who also
Así de cualquier escenografía que necesitemos.
works on scenery, is a stage designer, and he's very important because he solves problems. Amaranto is a circus artist, musician. Carlitos, who is a musician, he plays very
De tamboras, de flautas, de gaitas.
like typical instruments from our aboriginal communities.
Y él es
And
pues
we have also this circus artist who is helping us, and Oscar Vega, who is audiovisual producer. And there are more people who take part in this project. And another person who is taking part in this project is Carlos Gomez. I'm going to talk about him later. We are located in Santander, in Colombia, and particularly in Barichara, which is this red dot. And we also work in Villanueva, which is next to Barichara. It's a very small town. And when you come here, you will be able to see how close they are and the processes we are developing here. You get the chance to know it better. We work on 4 different lines. The first one is investigation. The second one is creativity. The third is a communal work.
Todas ellas están...
They are not actually independent lines of work. They are all interweaving all the time. And they somehow give a feedback to themselves. In the investigation component of our project, here you see a meeting that we had in 2021 with people from different parts of our country, from north to south, Amazonas, Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, from different places in Colombia, from Palenque. And the important thing that we did was a research on the communal audiovisual schools around the country. We made a meeting here in Barichara, which was very pleasant and was enjoyed by the community because people from all over the country came to us. And we started to know how they work with their own communities to generate contents, to give content to their projects. It was a very interesting investigation that we are about to finish. We have been meeting in this gathering since 2016, and this finished with the thesis. And we went also to Villa de Leyva, is another town south of Barichara. And all this process, has been an extended work all over 13 years. We normally don't finish with the paperwork, but we have made a kind of audiovisual product to give information about the investigations we do. This one, for example, was about a product on the countryside. And we try to absorb different ways to register the results of our investigation. The second line of our work is creation. We emphasize, of course, creating audiovisual art products. We did a film called about the peace process in Colombia. And this is the documentary. And we narrate in this short story how peace was achieved between these 2 towns, Villanueva and Barichara. It's a kind of registration of how this historical process took place. It has been many people have seen it in our region and in other parts of the country. This other project, we were working on addictions, especially among youngsters, and that was called We Didn't Inherit the Sea. Our school has moved in different areas, and but at present we work mainly on Barichara. We also work on theater proposals. We have a piece of theater that we, thanks to support for international and national institutions, managed to put in place. It's from the Andean area, and it's the main subject is talking about disappeared people and it gives memory of a process that we have lived in our country. This is another work that we developed, and the main issue was fear and dealing with fear. So this kind of materials we try to present to transform feelings and to bring those materials to rural communities who rarely have access to this kind of material. These investigations take time. We don't achieve them from one day to another. This is our theatrical group from the first piece of theater that we were talking, and we feel ourselves, or we perceive ourselves as a family. We have kids, and our kids also take part in our theater pieces, and they have assumed this way of life, sharing our work and our theater productions. We also work on the field of plastic art. We did a huge painting on the countryside here.
Trabajamos con los muchachos, primero
And
recorriendo
we worked with youngsters, just walking
ecología,
around in our territory, making an investigation about plants, water, the problems we have, ecological problems we have. And the result was to put that into a big painting on this wall. And that was about 2 or 3 months of work, and that's the final produce of this investigation. The other line of work we have is a pedagogic line. For example, in theater, we have done an audiovisual production. We have done lots of shorts. And we realized that the camera gave us the opportunity to put lots of messages, and the youngster demanded more and more of that kind of work. So we continue developing that, and that they want to more challenges on the field of audiovisual production, and those we consider them interesting, because we have to take into account how much can we communicate, how they are able to project their voices, to produce good materials. We still produce some shorts. We have a page that you can visit and to see some of those shorts which have been translated into English, some of them. We have started to work also with agricultural subjects. We want to pass exactly from these traditional ways of modern ways of producing food with chemicals to go back to ecological producing. Carlos is the expert who is leading a process now to teach children ecological ways to produce food. And here we see also some pictures of to contrast exactly what the soil have suffered with the chemicals use. On the field of architecture, we also work with Santiago, who is trying to make popular at small scale, to explain children how the traditional crafts and ways to produce are used, so that the children can understand properly how these traditional ways of construction are used.
Porque si a ella le ha impactado, tal vez es importante contarlo.
We also we did a project swimming. So we started a project teaching how to swim. Ceci considered that one important project, so I decided to show that initiative as well. So we are on the mountains, and access to water is sometimes not that easy. So we implemented this project to allow youngsters to learn to swim. We also worked with other sports like cycling and other sports. Another important initiative we have done was these communal gatherings that bring us spaces to talk and dialogue. This
mucha gente
Miracle was last year, and many people came from our territories in the rural areas where we live. Maritza also took place, and we worked in different tables, and we had conclusions.
sobre el territorio.
We made conclusions of what are the problems and assets of our territory. So these gatherings tried to link people who have choose this territory to live, coming as newcomers, and also the people who traditionally lived here, promoting this dialogue, these spaces of dialogue we consider are vital for our development as community. So many people take part in these dialogues, and the community has participated in big numbers in these initiatives. These are two of them. Those are the posters we had. This is, for example, a meeting on which we work on mental health of our community. And she has come to our community, rural community, to say mental health is important. We have to generate the space to talk about our problems, to look that there is solutions to them. And we have developed a trust in our community, because at the beginning it was a kind of taboo. We were not able to talk about mental health in our community. So we had a first attempt with a doctor, but it didn't work out well. But we identified that in our rural area, it's very important to have spaces to talk about mental health. And we are very happy about this initiative. And this is a document that we are going to issue soon. And it summarized the meeting or the gathering we had last year with the projects we had last year. This is my neighbor, Santos, who works with me on the countryside. And these are children with whom we work, because all our initiatives are actually made thinking about the children. All the good things, all the development that we can. Our idea is to bring all the best things to this rural community, so that there is access to them, so that they also feel there is a universal trend to take care of our soil, to produce food organically. So we also do cooking workshops, and the people in our community has answered to us with great enthusiasm, and they come to the spaces we try to build up. And finally, I would like to present you a theater, which is called Colibri Hummingbird Theater. We started to use it long before it was finished. It's not yet finished, but it has been already used as a scenery for theater pieces, for gatherings. And for example, we call the community and say, bring along something to share, and people come with something, and we make a abundance table with the sharings of what people bring along. So it's just amazing to see how generous the community can be. We have had readings of poetry. We have done workshops. We have already the doors and the walls. We have a wonderful wooden floor, and we feel that is a very dignifying space for us, which gives the opportunity to these communities to gain access to creativity, to art, to good quality proposals that enhance their sense of artistic thinking.
Obrigado, Oscar.
Acá. Me perdí. Sí, a ver, déjame, perdón. ¿Ya? ¿Se escuchaba bien? No sé, perdón que... ¿Sí? ¿No
Did
hubo
you hear
interrupción?
everything? There was a slow motion or something. Okay. Well, that's a great overview of what we do. I will share with you a video
Y bueno,
and you will have it on the chat
comentarios.
if you want to see it. It is in Spanish, but I will add or I will pass with Oscar the English translation later on.
Obrigado, Oscar, pela apresentação.
Thank you, Oscar, for the presentation. It was wonderful to see the different things that you do, and looking at everybody's faces during the presentation, I could see that everybody was delighted to see what you do. So thank you very much indeed. It was very interesting. And afterwards, if you can share the presentation as well, because there are several tools and things that we can look at. So those people can also look at the presentation, right? So thank you so much for that. And well, changing a bit of the time, I think we could, in 5 minutes, do this discussion step now. So I don't know if you were able to access Miro, but Michelle has just shared it again on the chat. So let us have 3 minutes to write there, and then we will open for discussion here, right? By voice. What do you think? Can we do that? We can use Miro, and we can put a few questions and comments there, and also offers. And especially as you feel in your hearts, you can also put opportunities for cooperation, okay? Yes, Michelle?
Eu vou aproveitar e vou compartilhar então com todo mundo
So I will share with everyone
a nossa cesta
our
e
basket,
daí também fortalecer
and then
just to enhance the opportunities for you to write in our mirror board, to share a little bit of, let me just share here to see if I can. I know it's in Spanish, but I would say that in English. Any offers would you like to share with the organization of Oscars? It can be either maybe a recommendation, an organization that maybe it's interesting for him to get in contact, or any insights you had of a researcher or someone that could be also added to an offer to him to get in contact from your country or from any other space and network that you have. Another thing, or projects, right? Another thing is opportunities to work together. So what type of projects or actions that it really connects me with his organization and all his projects that he has having. And then we could open up, you can either write in the basket for appreciation, but at the same time, we'll probably ask for a couple of people just to say and mention a couple of some appreciation can be in the chat as well. And one thing that we did in the first round that was very beneficial and people really liked it is after we finish this basket part, is really to have at least 3 people or a couple of people that would feel what type of questions we could offer Oscar so he can have a broader perspective from where we are to enhance what he's doing in the grassroots level in his organization, in his space in Colombia. So what are going to be the questions that we could have? So a couple of minutes, we can just open up the basket so we can have here what is actually happening now. The name of the organization is the Fundación Cultural Ojo de Agua. Vale, es esto, right, Oscar? ¿Esto es correcto? Fundación Cultural Ojo de Agua. Ok. Entonces, cualquiera, muchas gracias. Any
Sí,
suggestions? Oh, thank you. Sorry for overloading. But so any appreciation, anything you would like to add in this basket now? I'm gonna add a little song, and then we can have a couple of minutes. How long? Mateus, do you think 3 minutes?
Isso, seriam 3 minutos e depois mais 2 minutos para a gente discutir
Yeah,
se alguém
3 minutes for the baskets and then 2 minutes for comments in audio afterwards. And reminding you to please put your names, right? The name of your organization or your name so that we can know who is writing, okay? So let's do it. My camera, I don't know what happened. Anyway, let's go.
Sí, Maritza, gracias. Yo te agradezco. Yo le puedo poner subtítulos y con eso lo compartimos mejor así, ¿cierto? Vale, vale, gracias, Maritza. Perfecto.
Graças, obrigado, desculpe, obrigado pessoal, a todos que
Thank you,
estão
everyone. For those of you who are writing with comments and questions and opportunities for collaboration, I will stop sharing the screen so that we can now have 2 more minutes for discussion. And you can comment here, opening your microphones. So would anybody like to say something to Oscar or to go back to what you said in Miro? You can do that, okay?
Hola, Oscar. Le voy a hablar un poquito. Así que yo estoy muy encantada porque a mí me encanta muchísimo el trabajo con los niños. Así que cuando yo era
I love the work with children. And I feel a little bit tired, but I just
proyectos como el suyo.
I feel so motivated because I remember some kind of projects like your project. And I think that the person that I am today grow thanks to the seed that I had when I was a child. I always want to cry when I think about the Oscars project. I am a complete enthusiast of his work. I would love to work more with them. Thank you, Oscar. Because of comments such as the one of Marilene did, it's worth all the effort and the work. Thank you.
Todo esto que estamos haciendo nosotros
Everything
es retribuir
that we are doing
lo que hicieron por nosotros cuando fuimos.
is to give
Eso mismo
back what we receive as kids.
le ocurrió a Milce, una historia que yo
It's something as
el primer día que
Marilene
entré,
said. I told you a story, I
que
think
por qué
the
así
first day I was here,
preguntamos y es simplemente
where we ask ourselves with Emil, say, why we do this? And we answer ourselves that there was at that time someone who made work accessible to us, ways to understand art in a different way, ways to connect with elders, with children, with the others. And that experience that we have, and with the sensitivity, historically, social, gave us the opportunity to understand where we are, what we are living. And we think that it's necessary to do this kind of work. And we trust, as Marilene said, that will be a seed for these youngsters in the future, so that they can project, think, or live in a more sensible way about what we are and where we are.
comentar alguma coisa também, Sônia? Fique à vontade.
Would you like to say something, Soli? Go ahead.
I only wanted to say that your work is absolutely amazing. I wish so many people in the world could learn from you. I'm serious. I do think real children rights work is this, you know, and so many people do whatever else except this. So for so many levels, you know, obviously I have a little bit of a bias for arts, but and audiovisual, but I do think your holistic approach is amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to say that because I think yeah, you should celebrate it, and in any way that we can help, shout to the world. Like you share that documentary, I share it with a lot of people, and lots of people loved it. The one on peace. Anything that you want to share outside Colombia, in English or in Spanish, you know, more than happy to help with that because I think your work is amazing.
Yeah, I totally see that. I was just extreme, Oscar, and I mean, looking at hearing you speak and looking at the images, it's just astounding that the huge, well, the diversity. You know, everything from children's to the environment and performing arts. I could just see the lives of children being transformed, like incredibly powerfully. It's just amazing, Oscar. And I sense your main focus is just children, young people, just step into young adulthood as, you know, powerful, self-determining, you know, loving individuals. Is that right?
Sí, es realmente
It
darle
is
las
really
que otros niños tienen en otros espacios,
to give
en las ciudades, por ejemplo,
opportunities to these children
música,
here, these opportunities that other children have in the cities, like access to
accedemos al trabajo,
cinema, to art. In
con la opción de
Colombia, in the rural areas, we always have the option to work or go to war. And only few people
Pero-
have the opportunity to go to university.
es muy triste como un país segrega tanto la gente, teniendo tanta riqueza
And it's very
cultural.
sad to see how many people get segregated.
Entonces, abrir las puertas para que ellos tengan otras
And so it is to open the doors for these kids so that they have access to these opportunities. Sorry as well.
No, you've moved everybody to tears, I think, Oscar. It's just profound. How can we help you, dear friend?
Obrigado, pessoal. Obrigado, Oscar.
Thank you, everyone. Just a bit, Mateus.
Developing a way of how we can share tissues through our Oscar, now it's for you. Usually I share just with Ceci, so at this time I'm sharing with you.
Did Oscar catch my question, sorry, Michelle?
Yes, I think it's important to have a space. So now, are you feeling okay? We're very let me just say that in Spanish. So estamos muy tocados con lo que has dicho. Es muy importante.
We feel very moved by what you have said, or you have shared with us. And also by the work you are doing. We deeply believe that art is a connection for human beings because it goes straight to our hearts And we feel
para que él se
linked to
continúe
you
con ganas de
and
continuar.
strengthen our force as well.
Entonces, que se
And we want to give you this with the work you are doing. We hope that you can feel
como acá,
our love,
se puede ver Oscar de un lado, pero también
and we hope to see Oscar once
profunda
in our television or on internet somewhere, and his work, because this connection of bringing hope and dignity to people is very important, and we value highly that effort. Thank you very much, Oscar, and for your humanity that connect all of us, for your tears, and
ahora con
we hope to keep going with the enhanced force just connected with you and your efforts.
Gracias a ustedes por estos espacios,
Thank you
porque
to you for bringing me this space, because it makes us reflect about what we are doing. Because if we don't have these spaces to make these reflections, we just connect, we start to work, but don't give us the space to really think about.
sí, a veces uno siente
And just being impelled by this homework to choose what I will share here, that will make me also reflect on my own work, and I want to thank you that. And I believe that our work is just like with the big trees. It takes time for them to grow. It takes hundreds of years. So we are doing little steps towards something which is bigger and higher.
Mateus, I'm so sorry for interrupting you.
And I know we kind of past the time, but I think this is really important. And I think we kind of not emphasize it. And I think this is really important from one of the outcomes we had from our co-facilitators team. One thing that could be a very good gift and is really important for us as people who's being part of our organizations and doing such an amazing job and such an amazing work. There's sometimes we don't give ourselves the value for what we do. And sometimes, like Oscar was just mentioning now, sometimes we just keep doing it, and we don't realize how amazing work we are doing in our grassroots level, in our projects, in our daily lives. So at this time, when we have our presentations done, please do give us a time and gift these people who is actually presenting. That's what we call, that Ceci said. It's a big magic that we don't really see. And sometimes it's really hard for not giving ourselves the value that what we're doing. And we don't give the value for ourselves for what we're being doing, because it's so taken for granted daily, because it's so tough, it's so hard. So if I could ask all of you during the time after, when we have the appreciation time and where we have the outcomes and the gifts that we are having given to the presenters, in the name of their organization and the work of the whole team they are representing here, please take into account to emphasize from your heart and from your own perspective what is being so special for you, like Mari said, like everybody's saying, because sometimes we don't have that mirror so beautiful to tell us what is actually we are doing. And today is a time that we can gift everybody for that, for the organizations who are just starting presenting. So I know that one of the things that we have, this is for a new perspective. Please, Oscar, we're gonna just have a couple of more minutes, and then I'm gonna invite who would like to have at least like 1 to 3 questions that we can give to Oscar with a outcome, with a reflection for his work. So at this time, it's just giving you a new perspective around that question in a way that you can be gifted in to your project, okay? And then we can give you 5 more minutes for that at least. And then after, we're gonna do the same for the other 2 organizations. And I'm not sure, Beth, you're going to have the time, but I really would like you to be at this time to present at the end for the research part, but let's see how it goes. So Robert, would you like to give to him with a question? Because I know that you were talking before that, so please feel free.
Yeah, I was talking, I asked the question before, Oscar. I'm very moved, and the question was, how can we support you, dear friend, with your work, which is so important? What makes a big difference for you personally?
Bueno, que vengan a Barichara.
Well, that you come along and visit Barichara, because that's the first way to get to know really the project, that you are able to meet the children, that you can see the films, the works we are doing, that you can share the experience with our community. And that will give us the insight to do the exercise of the basket.
Todo se acepta acá, todo
Thank you for
hace
what you wrote to me
muchas cosas.
on the basket, because we need many things. For example, we need lots of psychological help. There are lots of problems with women mainly. And those women who have been in theory have gained, they feel empowered, they feel more tranquil. There are lots of mental health, and in the sense that they don't feel free to talk. So, but if somebody comes and makes a workshop, music workshop, or whatever, there's so many things that we can offer to this community, that everything will be of great value, because everything will be welcomed. Thank you for your offer, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. And another thing, someone else would like to bring a question and give Oscar. Just another thing that I would like to take a note that when we get the questions, we would like to answer all of them. This is going to be an exercise. If you could just we're going to share that after we've taken the note. And after, you can reflect and do not need to answer all of them right at this moment. Okay? Just to make sure that we're going to have, because some of the questions can come along and it's going to be very deep. So just take that as a gift. And then after, you can reflect upon, and we can even talk in the other meetings if it's needed. But at this moment, just take as a regalo, as a gift, as a gift.
Y me gustaría de ofrecer a ti, Oscar, una palabra de contacto con una expansión posible.
I would like to offer you a possibility of expansion related to what it's actually can be offered as a cure for people who are not living in Barichara.
Como humanidad, y que
because you have a great connection with of the things which really matter. And that would be something quite important for other people. So my question is how to offer this to people who are not in Barichara. Oscar, I'm here on the seaside. I'm here in Moñitos, and they do something similar to what you do. They work also with arts, with kids, with computers. And the lady who is helping here, she was telling us a testimony of her daughter, and of these children who was so anxious. And thanks to this foundation, this little kid became a leader who is helping with other children in this territory to promote the stories of change. So I would like to connect you with this foundation working here at the seaside in Colombia in a place called Moñitos, because you could come here and exchange the work with this organization here.
Te voy a decir en español. Una cosa que puedes considerar.
Something that you can consider, and if you believe that therapy
Pero
is
el
such a
video
big need,
participativo, el método
but
que
the
vos,
participatory video,
hay
the
mucha
tool you have, there are
terapéuticos
lots of proved evidence that it offers
en grupo.
therapeutic
Entonces,
release. So all the process that you can do while you develop a work,
cosas como el
and
suicidio,
that allows you to identify problems like suicide, domestic violence, or
tiene que
things of
estar
that
listo.
sort. If the group is ready to talk, and you use the tool of the participatory video, that will bring lots of release to your community. That's also a therapeutic tool as well. It has been proved. So if you can use the participatory video with this therapeutic sense, it will be very useful. It's not always strictly needed only a therapy. I just came from Brazil, from Argentina, and we had similar experiences, because it's like offering a mirror to the communities and to continue dealing with them. And there's just one more method to deal with the trauma.
Gostaria de comentar também, Oscar, eu fiz uma oferta ali no Miro.
I'd also like to comment, Oscar, I made an offer for your organization and Miro board, but in Convivir and Diga, we also work with social emotional development, not only of children, but also adults and people who are involved in the relationship network of these children. And so I'm also available to help. I can create activities and resources. I think it would be a very cool partnership, and it's a way in which I can contribute to our project as well. Okay? But thank you, Oscar, and thank you, everyone, for your comments. It was very moving, and it was very cool. So thank you so much, everyone. And Oscar can continue to observe the comments and offers and questions of everyone in Miro and also on the chat. We have a few comments, Oscar, if you would like to take a look. Thank you so much. I don't know if anybody else would like to make a comment or ask a question. Feel free to do that. Or if not, we can continue with Mari or Lorenza. What do you think? I think we can continue, Mateus. Yeah? Does Ricardo have?
As I already told you, I think it's marvelous the work you are doing. It's fascinating. This capacity to inspire and to create hope in the community, because it's the way I summarize what you are doing. And when you say, when I want to give the best to our communities, that demonstrate the great commitment that you have, not simply by doing something, but doing at the best of your possibilities. And that's, from that perspective, that mission is just marvelous and transforms lives. Because the people who benefit from those processes, they are going to perceive that love and dedication that you have. And my question that I want to offer you is related to what Beth mentioned. is how to measure the impact. I understand that it's difficult to measure that impact because organizations as yours, they just multiply the effect at long term, which is impossible to quantify or qualify. Marileni, for example, said when I was a kid, I participated those type of experience and that changed my life. And that's difficult to predict, but here is a testimony. We hear one. So feeling
el reto que representa poder
this
medir.
challenge perhaps is a question that I would like to give you. How to measure,
Crear una
how
narrativa.
to be able to create a narrative of the impact you are bringing. In the mirror, I wrote the possibility of offering you a workshop of bioeconomy in your territory, just thinking
Económica para tu organización.
on how to create a sustainable waste with your work you are doing. Just connecting
Productos que se pueden
knowledge, products, different approaches to economy, which could be sustainable. So
un aplauso
I
para
offer a dialogue, and I would like to ask you an
Mucho gusto.
applause for you, because I would like to continue collaborating with you.
Thank you so much. I will actually would like to take this little part, and I ask permiso, está maravilloso. I would like to ask a little bit of this space before, because I know Beth is gonna leave in a while, and if it's okay, Beth, because Ricardo is also coming and bringing this intention and question for Oscar to reflect upon about indicators or how to measure, but at the same time, we know that this is really on a high impact. If you could come along and share a little bit before we have the presentation with Lorenza or Mari, just to come on board and share a little bit of your suggestions that you had. If it could be like 10 minutes at the most, so we don't open it too much, but at the same time, we can have this little space to share what you have thought. And we talked yesterday, me, you, Beth, and Marcelo, and also what you've been talking and doing with Prosocial with Robert and other researchers in Prosocial world. Is it okay?
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot, Michelle. I feel like I won't give that topic justice right now. I don't know that I am prepared to summarize all of that. I'm wondering if I could do an audio recording on WhatsApp to answer that question and then send it to all. I would really like to have an opportunity to talk a little bit with Robert also before I respond to that. Is that okay?
Maybe I can
Sure.
add. Maybe I can add a little bit. I think quite a few of you were with us last year, and you prepared projects, and at the end, you told us something about the significant change that occurred in the world. The work that Soleil did with you, helped that enormously. I mean, she wove capturing stories of significant change using participatory video in was a very powerful addition. And so I think in terms of our work, it's almost akin to what you've just done, Oscar. The most powerful thing we've got is the stories we've got to tell, aren't they? And that's what the Templeton World Charity Foundation love. They love hearing stories about how they've been able to help others change their world and move in a direction that's better for them and those that they care about, their environment. And so what you're doing now is exactly it. So you've all drawn up wonderful little project outlines. You've got these wonderful questions about what a future world could look like and the kind of change you would like to make. And then just tell a story about how you've taken the first step in that direction. very powerful. And you saw, and the work that Soleil did last year with us, I found very inspiring, because the way in which she had woven together, everybody's story. So there was like this little documentary, and even when it was just output, like homework from a course, it told a powerful story. So I think this year we can tell an even much more powerful story. And I've got this. It's like I can imagine it. It's like a deep wish and a prayer almost, that if we can tell a powerful story about what it takes to reweave our human fabric and to heal our hearts and souls, there's not anyone on this planet who's not yearning for the same thing. And if they see it and feel it, they'll say, we want that. We want to help you. It's exactly the way in which Ricardo and Matthias and everyone just said, Oscar, we want to help you. Yeah. Beth.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert, for jumping in there. I feel like the presentation that you gave, Oscar, today, and the presentation that Ceci gave last time, just looking back at the recording or looking back at the transcripts and extracting the messages and how you told the story, I mean, that to me is the report. I mean, that's the quotations report. That's all of that was beautiful, to take all of the words. And I mean, you had so many people in, emotional, in that emotional impact. Just the words as you're presenting this, the impact is beautiful. I mean,
it's fantastic. And even Ricardo's point about longitudinal change. If we together can while we might be capturing stories about the project we're doing now, we can capture the hopes of long-term change from people. It's like, gosh, we've taken a first step, and it could be a big difference in 10 years. Gives people hope and vision. But also in retrospect, if Ricardo said, gosh, someone did this for me when I was young, and who would have guessed that it made such a big difference? You're going to make a big difference for the people you're going to work with in the future.
And then lastly, just wanted to, I think I put this in the chat last time, but the presentation that Ceci had provided, there was one slide that said impacts. It had lots of boxes. There were, it wasn't quantified. There wasn't a number, but that captured the outcome and the impact. And those just listed, if you had just, in the report, if we were to list those, that does it. That captures the outcome. I could imagine going through the PowerPoint and pulling lots of images and text boxes out of your presentations, and including those images and graphics and such.
I'd also reckon, I mean, Soleil helped us last year. I mean, she taught the folk in the participatory day court how to actually help people tell their story. Like, there was a process of qualifying the story, so you don't bias it. Kind of, that's really important. So I think later in this project, I mean, we can capture some stories that'll just go to the general public, which can be very, richly illustrated. But then there's ways in which we can more formally, using a more formal process, capture stories of significant change that have been, everyone, like we'd come together and everyone would say, what did we do? And amongst all of us, what's the big story we want to tell? And who are the people we've worked with that can tell that story? And then there's a way in which you can capture it that has a level of academic rigor. You know, for those who are interested who are down that end of the spectrum. So we can speak to both audiences. Yeah. That's right, isn't it, Soleil?
Yeah, I in another chat we had with Michelle and Beth, I was saying, I think you need both, which is hard.
Yeah.
I would say you need your report, your written report. Some people care about it, not just funders. But I would say the visual side will give you more amplification. And so that's why video is one. But we were chatting a lot about, I don't know, your basket weaving synonym or metaphor, I think is amazing. The visual representation of who you are and your collective impact. I hope you don't lose it in a report. So, you know, just make sure you keep the visual. I feel, yeah, depending who you want to talk to, you need both. But the video or any visuals will give you a wider reach for the people who don't want to read a long report. But there is a group of people who care about the reading. So you definitely should try to cater to both.
Yeah. And we can certainly help do that. I mean, that's based on the stories you did last year. We produced a wonderful report. And the lovely thing about this project is the way it's been scoped out. It's not pulling for lots of numbers. It's actually pulling for story. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Soleil. Beth, would you like to add anything? I would like to actually ask for both of you, if you could, all of you actually, not both, but there's three of you, you're like this in my screen. Any suggestion you may have or would like to give to all of our projects, all of us, in a way that we can reflect upon, because learning how to measure the impact and learning how to talk about that is also very beneficial for the project individually. And as that's what we talk a lot about. How can we learn how to become more like collaborative? Yes, but also independently in a way that we can promote, not just consider about. They were giving us this feedback, like for example, Barichara, where Joe, like most of you from Prosocial knows him, he's a very good person to go after funds. But he is. What happens if he leaves or it happens something to him? Who else is going to be prepared to keep on doing that? And I know this is a possibility we are having as a hub, how we can think and plan ourselves together, and how we can move ourselves in a way that we can be not just independent, but we can be self-sufficient in a way that we can learn how to do it. So I know this is a challenge you gave us, Robert. I know this is our challenge, and you're supporting us in the best way. So anything you could put and add in their baskets, in the organizations related to that, like you, Soleil, and Beth, in a way that we can learn as a group, because then we can have the idea of systemically in all them. But at the same time, every single one can have their individual process of analysis and learning process as well. Okay. So I would like to ask that, if it's okay for all of you too, to bring that awareness and perspective for all of us, if it's possible.
Soleil, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I just wanted to say, I tried last year to give some examples, but I don't know if there is enough time always for everything. My email is open to anybody. If you're going to use participatory video or participatory video with most significant change, you don't have to kind of doubt if we can reach out to me to say, hey, Soleil, I'm going to do this. What do you think? I actually love, Mari is doing participatory video workshop in her community. And she wrote to me on WhatsApp saying, hey, Soleil, I'm doing this. That's how you have to continue. Don't think that you have to have all the answers from what we did last year, but do it. I would say that that's the best way to not lose the knowledge for everybody who went through that course, because it's a muscle that you need to exercise in action rather than in just the techniques. And the main thing with the stories of significant change is you may just do it from time to time sporadically, and that's fine. And you can collect them and then, as Robert said, use them in reports or use them to share with the world, videos, whatever you want. But if you do it systematically, I know a few organizations who started to do that, let's say once a year, you do it with your communities, then from qualitative data, which are stories, you can start to get numbers, because you can start to compare year after year what different people say, how did they say it. So I always say, I appreciate you need to do numbers in lots of different ways. Surveys are one way to do them, but it's not the only way. You can just do qualitative, systematic storytelling and then get numbers over the years through that. So yeah, I'm saying just try, start, and follow Mari, which is doing amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a lovely sort of prelude to what I was thinking, Sai. Maybe Michelle and the facilitation team, if you like, next week or the week after, I could speak briefly to why the project outline was structured the way it is. Because that was structured as so that you'd automatically be doing research. So I can explain a little bit of that, because yeah, okay.
I just have one last thing. Michelle, I did send some templates to you on WhatsApp that I think would be helpful for at least us, but I'm not sure if we would want to circulate them around for everyone, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then I had put together a PowerPoint presentation for some friends of ours in Sierra Leone, Africa, doing some work with some children there, and they kind of wanted the similar support, how to go through an evaluative process. And I think I'm going to send it to you and see if that might be helpful, and then maybe we could talk about it and maybe get it translated, and maybe so that just popped into my head.
Have you talked to Soleil about that work, Beth?
No, not yet.
You should.
I should. We should. Yes. Thank you. But not here. I hope that PowerPoint might provide some more, and it might support what you're going to go over as well, Robert. So maybe we could combine those efforts.
We could.
Okay.
And maybe other folk would like to know. I mean, just so you know, there's another project in Sierra Leone where there's extraordinary women, mainly. They have you heard of women's genital mutilation? Who's heard of that? It's just barbaric. And they were what's the project called, Beth, that they're doing now?
Commit and act.
Yeah, commit and act are the folk, and so they've started a movement where these young women, and also the older women who used to do the operations, have just committed and acting to actually change this completely. And we saw the reason why they were doing it. I watched a video where it was explained that for every operation that these older women did, they'd get 150 euro. So there was money that they got, which they needed because they were poor. But the other thing is, culturally, young men wouldn't marry young girls unless they'd had this horrible operation. And so by using story, not as sophisticated as what you use, Soleil, they got the truth of how painful and ugly this is out. And they used processes to develop psychological flexibility, which we looked at last year. But there was this one video where the women who were doing, historically doing this, they just automatically broke into a ceremonial dance around a table and threw their knives down and quit. And now they've got more than 600 or 700 young girls who have come together as a movement, and they cut their hair to show that we're not cut. and they wear special colored t-shirts, and it's turned into an unbelievable movement. But you know, the powerful thing for me was that video. I just saw these women just committing to the lives of their children by throwing down these knives. Did you see that, Beth?
Yes.
Yeah, it was very powerful. Yeah, anyway. We're doing important work. Marcelo.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Marcelo?
Eu acho que estamos falando de algo muito importante
I think
que
you're talking about something very important. We called it the game of indicators, the game of the report, and this game with this delicateness of finding in this space that has Beth's intelligence, Robert's intelligence, Soleil's intelligence, and our own intelligence of communicating what needs to be communicated in a way that is viable for us to become self-sustainable. So I think there are many ways to do that. And Beth has just shared with us a way that's very elegant to transform a scientific article into a language that's graphically attractive. And Solly also brought an example of a report that would be for another audience, and that's also very interesting and graphically interesting. So maybe, you know, Robert, to bring these new in different languages that communicate what we want to communicate and also inspire us in this production that connect organizations and have a connection to research in a way to legitimize and authorize our work as a group.
This is such a great opportunity for us to share again and have this time next week. I think I promised we can add that in our co-facilitation. And I also need to apologize because I know we won't have the time to have the other two presentations. But I know that this is important. It's a really big learning process for all of us, how to actually communicate our process. More than just writing a report is how we communicate what is happening. And at the same time, giving value to the perspective of researchers who might need it, and also to the communities and possible funders. Next week, we're going to have in our co-creation space a learning journey for the co-creation storytelling of our journey with Sole next Tuesday. This is most of the co-facilitators, but I think we can invite everyone, especially you, Ricardo, but I know it's a lot of time. But if you would like to come on board and be part of, you, Marley, it's all welcome. Tuesdays, the sessions is usually in Spanish, because we have most of the co-facilitators learning, like me, Portuñol, but all of them are so great to embrace ourselves in the process of holding our Portuñol in that meeting. So I really appreciate, but whoever would like to be part, I will share the schedule and anybody is going to be more than welcome. That's going to be next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to still with our dialogue ecosystem process, presenting and continuously having all those organizations presentations, which Mateus has been doing such a wonderful job too, to give us the support, the framework, the structure. So thank you so much, Mateus. But at this moment, I know that we have just 20 minutes left, and I would like to see if it's okay to have one more presentation. And I know Beth needs to leave pretty soon. So thank you, Beth, for coming along and sharing your insights and your knowledge also with us. To see if Lorenza or Mari would like to be our presenter today, and one of you who might be able will be invited to be presenting next week. So who would like to present next week? Please don't say both of you, just one of you. Okay, who would like to present today? Mari, seu microfone está fechado. Você quer apresentar hoje?
Para mim, tanto faz, sim, a Maria.
For me, it's okay.
Lorenza, would you like to present today or next week? Mateus?
Eu havia conversado com a Lorenza e a
I
gente
had
entrou
talked to Lorenza and we agreed that she could present next week,
e ela concordou
and she agreed. So thank you, so Lorenza, about that, by the way.
Então, Mari, se você
So Mari, if you would like to
sentir à vontade, pode ser você, porque tá
to do the presentation now, we could have your presentation. All right, so I prepared a video.
Eu vou colocar aqui, vou ver.
So I'm
Ver se
just
eu
going to
consigo.
show
Como
you.
é que eu faço para
Let me
mandar?
see
Aqui,
how.
vamos ver. Se eu consigo mostrar aqui para
Let me see if I can
vocês.
show you.
Já veio, Mari. Se tiver som,
Yeah, we can see it, Mari. If there's sound,
compartilhar a imagem e som.
please share the image and the sound. If there's no sound, the image is perfect. Yes, there is sound. But then let me know if it's not working.
Não tá saindo som não, Mari.
We can't hear the sound.
No sound.
So how can I do that?
Para o seu compartilhamento de
Stop
tela.
sharing.
Aí, quando você clicar em compartilhar tela,
And when you click on
embaixo
share
da
screen,
caixinha tem uma opção
below the
que deve
box,
ser,
there's an
se você
option.
tá em inglês, é share sound. Aí você
And it's
clica
just
nela.
explaining her how to share screen.
Sim. Então agora já deu.
Aí agora você compartilha de novo a tela do YouTube.
Tá bom. A aldeia.
Show.
E o nome do nosso projeto é Caguarandu.
I think she said the name of our project is Kaingu Meeting.
Para falar sobre Caguarandu.
So to talk about Kaguarandu, first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the urban tribe, tribo urbana. 8 years ago, approximately, in 2016 and 2017, we started to do events, conferences outside the village. In Santa Catarina State, we had ceremonies. We talked to our elder Chamoy in the village, and he authorized us to take the Guarani prayer elsewhere and teaching our spirituality in a few places here in Santa Catarina State, where we are in the south of Brazil. And so we started to do this and taking prayer and knowledge for people who would like to know and learn from the Guarani people, from us. And as we did that, we also gave lectures and we went to schools and a lot of lectures in schools so that people would stop having prejudice against us and to show them that, there are different peoples and there are different cultures and each one has its value and needs to be respected. And the Guarani people, we have suffered a lot. Historically, we suffered with the impoverishment of the population, a lot of things that were lacking in the tribes. And as we took to these other places, we wanted to show that even with so many difficulties, the Guarani people was resisting, and the Guarani people are living and keeping their culture and the way of living, and how much this is rich and it has its beauty. And so in 2019 to 2020, the tribe, Tribo Urbana, did the opposite way. It went back to the village and it stopped being this urban tribe and it started to be called Kaguanguanu, that means the wisdom of the forest. And we started working in empowering, strengthening the leaders and empowering the children so that they could also be leaders, and looking for ways to have self-sustainability, and looking for ways to live and have our needs met in the village itself. And then we had the Caguamiriporã project, which is our village, and it was born as like a pilot tribe so that it is self-sustainable and it has its own resources. The purpose was to have that. And the purpose was for us to be an inspiration for other communities and other families that would be interested in learning. So we sought the support of the university so that we could have help and we could have knowledge and we could generate knowledge as well, so that we could do an analysis of the soil, of the water, and think about crops so that we could use the land that we have, which is a land that is ours, but the soil is very poor, so it needs investment. And since we don't have resources to invest on the land and for us to have our production, we need knowledge for that. So we need to know what type of green enrichment of the soil we can do, and also work with the food culture of our people, and also offering those who are interested in learning with us to be living in the village and to have that opportunity, because to be in nature is healing, and healing also comes from living together. And people in the cities, they are sick, and this is because they miss nature, because nature is our natural habitat. I always say that to be in nature is to be in our natural way, and that's what we've been doing. We tried to have this integration, and we have this interculturality. So we are waiting for you here to be with us. To be in nature is our natural way of being.
Ops, o que eu fiz aqui?
Oh my God, what did I do?
Tudo certo?
Sorry. Is that all right? Can you hear me? Yes, they can hear you. Right. So it's the first time that I do this. I'm not very much used to doing this, like, you know, of working with the computer and all. So it's my first time. And I also have 5 slides, and we can talk about them, and I can show you. Let me see where they are.
Então, eu vou falar pouquinho aqui.
Right, so I'm going to
De Caguarandu.
speak about Caguarandu.
Então, quando a gente começou a fazer
So when we began to have this project of implementing this pilot tribe or pilot village, we wanted it to be self-sustainable and to have food security, because it was very hard for us to visit villages and to see people hungry, and to visit friends and see this extreme hunger situation and famine. And especially here in our region, there's a lot of prejudice because it's a region, the south of Brazil was colonized by Europeans. And this is very strong. Here we have situations of threats, deaths, and threats against the leaders, and a lot of oppression because of the territory. And we want to conserve that. We have tried to keep the forests alive, and as young leaders and as leaders, sometimes it's very heavy, but we have tried by means of our project to have strength so that we could, first of all, keep the territory intact and look for sustainability in our own territory. And also promoting these exchanges that are so important, strengthening the culture in the villages, but also that other people could come here and go into the land and, you know, trying not to have this prejudice of the society. So this is our symbol, our logo. It has the elements from nature. When we created we thought about it when we came up with this logo, and I did everything by hand because we always say, oh, this pachapara, it's a thing of the Juruá. It's the paper is not something from us. Pachapara is paper. And so this thing is not, it does not belong to us, indigenous people, this paper thing. So this project was in a process, and this process, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes we begin something and we end the other one, and the other one is starting. So it's this project of empowering the leaders and having exchanges of knowledge, a lot of lectures, the protection of the environment. A fight for the rights, especially by means of groups that we have and that we participate in groups, because as leaders, we are part of a lot of things, and we have a lot, really tight schedule. And when it's when I wasn't a leader, life was simpler for me. But after I became a leader, I'm a vice head of my village, and I'm also a university college student. And so all of this brought this tight schedule. I was not used to that before because it's not our time. Our time is different. Our time is not based on the clock. So those are adaptations that I'm trying to make. So our project also works on all the areas: education, social, environment, because it involves everything. Nothing is separated. When you are working with territory and you're caring for it, you're working with education, and you're caring for the land, and you're working with children, you're working with the elders. So there's no separation. Here we have the villages, the tribes. So in our region, we have 13 of them in the north region of our territory here. And below, you can see that we have numbers. It's the population of each of these little villages. So there was a census that we work with 703. We have 703 people here in our area, divided in these 13 tribes. 12 of them are Guarani, and one is from the Yeni people, people who migrated from the Amazon region to our region here during the pandemics, because they wanted to escape from lack of oxygen and all the problems that they had up north. So they are in a land that's close to ours. It's a land that is from the government, but it's still in a certification process. It has all of this legal problem. So these 12 villages are divided in a few cities of this region. Araquari, Balneário do Sul, Joinville has one, Garuva has another one. And so they are divided, and they are in the cities as well. Tecoporá, we say that it's to live well. So for us to have this good life, we need to have a territory, and we have a territory, we have a land, we have health, and we have education. And education is divided into indigenous education and indigenous school education. Those are two different things. Indigenous education is the education that the child has since the time in which he or she is born in the village, with experiences, with the language, and in the schools, it's like this white knowledge comes to us inside our schools, the schools that we have in our villages, and to know how to manage both and to know what we're going to leave and we're going to have in terms of having this access from the outside in is very important, and we need to do that as leaders, but we need to understand your world as well so that we can preserve our world. And this happens also in the schools. So here is a drawing with the entities that help us and support us. And we live with them and we spend time with them. I go to Univille University and they help me exchange with the students and with the lecturers. There's always someone from the university coming to the villages, or there's always someone from the village going to that university to give lectures. But to study, I am the only one who's doing that. I am doing this university as a woman. We have 3 women that are going to study pedagogy abroad, but that's also very hard, you know, for them to stay in the university. Even though we have the support, the financial support, there's difficulty. There's no bus, there's no access, so it's very hard. And when we get the access, it's very hard to remain there. So there was an intercultural pedagogy class. We had more than 40 people from the region, but only 3 graduated.